I want to introduce my first guest right now. Joining me from the team of Quint. Now, remember, our team at Beatroot has a tie-up with the team at Quint. And so Quint is actually is going to be with us through the course of this morning, taking us through what they've learned from their ground reports on the ground, from how each state is moving. And to begin with, Aditya Menon, who is the political editor at Quint, joins me right now. Aditya, good morning, and thank you for joining us. And welcome to this collaboration between Quint and Beatroot. So extremely interesting sort of numbers are going to come in. We've seen what the exit polls are already telling us. But just to give perhaps our younger audience a bit of a perspective on what this means, if we go state by state, the big states of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh are key states right now because it's about the heartland of India, sort of the Hindi-speaking heartland of India, on which BJP has had a very strong hold. Madhya Pradesh, particularly, to remind our audience, you'll remember that the Congress actually won Madhya Pradesh, and then midway through that term in 2020, that government fell. The Kamal Nath government fell because Jyotiraditya Scindia broke away and joined the BJP. And then the Shivraj Singh Chauhan government came back. Now, Shivraj Singh Chauhan is hoping for another term. This would be his fifth term as chief minister. But we understand there's a fair amount of anti-incumbency against him. Now, how crucial is Madhya Pradesh for the BJP to sort of assert the fact that it still has a stronghold over that Hindi heartland?
Absolutely. Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh put together, these three states have 65 Lok Sabha seats and BJP holds 61 out of 65. Congress holds just three, and one is, of course, with a party which was a BJP ally, now no longer a BJP ally, the Rashtriya Loktantrik Party. So
Right.
it's absolutely essential for the BJP to sweep these states if it has to come anyway close to winning Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh,
We seem to have, having some trouble with that connection. We're going to try and get Aditya in again, but in the meantime, we'll try and pop some numbers out just to give our audience what we're talking about, an idea of what we're talking about. So we're talking about the 2018 assembly results for Madhya Pradesh, particularly where the Congress won 114 seats out of a total of 230. And it crossed that, the halfway mark of 116 with the help of some allies. And it formed a government, but it was really the Scindia coup in 2020 that costed Congress that government. Remember, Scindia joining the BJP. And the Scindias are very important in Madhya Pradesh. It's always been really about, that sort of politics, because Madhya Pradesh was formed by combining some British ruled provinces and princely states. And so the Scindias were always popular. And so it will really be interesting to see how Scindia's support group actually functions and how that votes. And there is a crucial sort of case here for Shivraj Singh Chauhan. Remember, Shivraj Singh Chauhan now aiming for his fifth term as chief minister of a state. If he's able to win this election against that whole wave of anti-incumbency, it would actually put him in a very powerful position going into the Lok Sabha elections of next year, because it will prove that he still has a very strong ground force. That it's something that cannot be denied even by the BJP high command in Delhi. Shivraj Singh Chauhan is also, our older viewers will know, from the Vajpayee Advani era. He's actually a BJP man from back then. And we do know, of course, that the current sort of administration of the BJP prefers younger people who don't have that much legacy from the past. So it will be interesting to see whether or not, Shivraj Singh Chauhan is able to cement his place as as the stronghold really of Madhya Pradesh. Let's look at the other side. On the Congress side, I think we have Aditya back. Aditya, we lost you mid-sentence, but it was a very interesting sentence. You were talking about the fact that the BJP has 61 out of 65 seats that go out of these three important states into the center. And that's why this is really important. These elections are really important.
Absolutely. And in Madhya Pradesh, BJP has 28 out of 29. The only seat that they don't have is Kamal Nath's seat, Chhindwara, which is held by his son. So they really want a stable government in Madhya Pradesh so that they can repeat this sweep. Yeah, I mean, Madhya Pradesh in that sense represents the domination of the BJP in the Hindi heartland. They've ruled the state except for the 1.5 year interregnum. They've ruled it consistently since 2003 now. Uh, One of the longest stints in any Hindi state for any party.
So let's look at Rajasthan for a second before we see any of those numbers come in. Rajasthan again, very interesting contest because both the BJP and the Congress seeming very strong, but as we've seen within the BJP, there's the Vasundhara Raje faction that's upset because Mr. Raje has been sidelined. Within the Congress, there's a Sachin Pilot faction that's upset. So basically, there are this factionalism and this sort of possibilities of rebellion in both parties. And having said that, from your sort of understanding, where do you believe this election has flown? Because from most of the exit polls, it does still seem close.
So, I mean, the early numbers seem to be pointing towards a lead for the BJP. And of course, these are postal ballots. And Rajasthan has a very high proportion of ex-servicemen who were posted, of servicemen who were posted in different parts of the country. So, obviously, I mean, we cannot have a decisive picture based on that. But I think Ashok Gehlot really put up a very good fight towards the last 3-4 months. Some terrific schemes that the Rajasthan government introduced as Ayushman. There's the a scheme that gives health insurance to people. There is a scheme for gig workers. Indira Rasoi scheme. So through these schemes, they've provided some kind of a safety net to the poorest of the poor. And that is the vote which seems to be leading this fight back from Ashok Gehlot and the Congress.
I just want to, point out again some numbers for our audience, right? If we look at the 2018 results of Rajasthan, the Congress won 100 seats, the BJP won 73, and they needed to cross that halfway mark of 100. So the Congress formed that government. But if you look at the Lok Sabha elections, it was in the opposite direction. The BJP got 24, Congress got 0. So is Rajasthan, Aditya, a state that works in like opposite directions for state and center? And is that likely to happen here as well? I mean, would we be wrong? My question is, would we be wrong to read too much into how this state votes from a national election point of view?
So, Rajasthan, I think at the central level is a BJP leaning state. I think every election except for 2009, the BJP has won a majority of seats in Rajasthan. And in some of the elections, like 2004, they've really swept Rajasthan. They won 21 out of 25 in 2004. 2009, of course, the Congress won 20 out of 25. And subsequently, the last two elections, the BJP has swept every seat. So, I mean, it is a slightly BJP leaning state. Nationalism is very important in Rajasthan. Prime Minister Modi enjoys a very high degree of popularity. Even when the BJP lost last time, the slogan was कि Modi तुझसे बैर नहीं, राजे तेरी खैर नहीं, which clearly showed that the resentment, if at all, was against the the then state government and not against the PM. So yeah, Rajasthan is probably a BJP leaning state. It was during Vajpayee's time. It is also a BJP leaning during Modi's time at the national level. At the state level, of course, because of a very robust state leadership of the Congress is far more competitive.
Right, and so none of the numbers have really come in at this point, but just again to take our audience to how this works, Aditya, because we have a lot of young people who watch us. Between say about 8:30 and 9:30, is it just postal ballots? At what point will the actual sort of real leads start coming in?
I think till about 9:15, it's mostly postal ballots. So I mean, those are not very high. So the leads are slightly distorted at that point of time. Some people in the past have sort of decided to call the election based on postal ballots and got it terribly wrong. So we should really not venture in that territory. But I think by around 10, the states which are delivering a clear verdict should be pointing in a direction, in a particular direction. But most of the states this time seem extremely close. So we might have a slightly longer day today.
Yeah, yeah. Also, just to take our audience through some points of how this works, right? So when we say leads, it basically means that in every sort of county, in every constituency, there will be a strong room in which the boxes have been kept. Now, each box is not connected to other boxes, which is really important to understand. So it's not a one press a button where you find the entire results. Every box is to be opened in the presence of people who are observing, and that box's numbers come out. And as the boxes are opened, you have these numbers being posted. So you sort of get a sense of who's leading. But that's not the final result until all the boxes are open, which happened close to what, 12, 1 o'clock, when the election commission gives the final numbers, Aditya?
Sometimes even later. I think many of the seats, especially in the heartland, because the number of voters are quite high, so we might have close to 30 rounds, 25 rounds. I mean, each round means each booth has been counted, and that's how one round is sort of a party is leading in that round, and then of course all the rounds are put together, and that's when the final result is declared. So I think we might maybe closely fought seats. It will be clear only around, say, around 1. That's when probably the 18th, 19th round would probably be counted.
Yeah, and also, just, I mean, this is a question I know that we've sort of asked and answered in the past. This idea, and it will come up, we know by the end of the day, that the electronic voting machines have been hacked or compromised in some way. There's been absolutely no evidence up till now that this sort of thing is possible at all, isn't it?
Yes, I mean there is no concrete evidence as such, but I think the election commission also could do with a little more transparency in probably counting all the VVPATs, so that there is no room for ambiguity or no room for anyone to question the process. So in that sense, yeah, I think a little more transparency would be better as far as EVMs are concerned. But of course, the security of EVMs. I think mostly, except for I remember one incident in Assam a couple of years back, EVM security has mostly been pretty tight from the side of the election commission.
Let's look at Chhattisgarh as well, if I may, Aditya. Chhattisgarh, for our audience, has 90 seats. Halfway mark is 46. We're going to see those numbers starting to trickle in a little while. It's a really important state from the point of view of Naxal affected areas. Lots of tribal communities. They have very specific issues that need to be addressed that have not been addressed up till now, including coal mining and what happens to the environment, what happens to the forests around coal mining that deeply affect the tribal population of Chhattisgarh, and we've seen that sort of pop up as well. Is it a given for Bhupesh Baghel, or is there some room there for the BJP to still gain something?
So about a couple of months back, all the exit polls seem to be indicating that Bhupesh Baghel will win comfortably. But the BJP, being the kind of election machinery that it is, I think they really pulled things back towards the when the campaign began. So the exit polls now say that it's far more closer than what was expected in the opinion polls a couple of months back. And of course, except for the last election, 2018, where Baghel won, the Congress under Baghel won almost two-thirds majority. Every election in Chhattisgarh, has the two parties have been broadly having the same vote share, 1 or 2% apart, and in terms of seats, about 5 seats or 10 seats apart. So the state historically has given slightly closer mandates. I think this election won't be any exception. I think this election also will deliver a close mandate, be it for Mr. Baghel or for the BJP. As far as the tribal seats are concerned, and it's 29 out of 90 seats are reserved for STs, and all those areas are tribal majority areas. So it's actually a very good indicator of where Adivasi votes in across the country are headed if one just looks at the tribal belt in Chhattisgarh.
And of course, the very interesting state of Telangana. The exit polls are giving us an indication that there may be an upset. And I say upset because Telangana has had only one chief minister in its very short history. Telangana is not a very old state. It just came about recently. And the person sort of that spearheaded the breaking of erstwhile Andhra Pradesh into Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, is K. Chandrasekhar Rao, has been the chief minister of the state ever since. But now we understand from the exit polls that that may change, that the Congress might actually, have room here to take the state away from KCR and from his party, the BRS. But it was very interesting. Before these elections happened, the BRS was actually flexing some sort of national presence. There was a little bit of movement towards the border between Telangana and Maharashtra. They changed their name also to sort of reflect a more national presence. But do you actually think that they may lose the state, and so that national presence then might be an argument for a different name?
Yeah, absolutely. If they end up losing the state, I think any national kind of expansion pitch from KCR will sort of be nipped in the bud, because all of it was sort of dependent on them holding on to Telangana, and that too with a sizable margin. So probably it's a gamble that KCR should probably have avoided, and it would have, because the very identity of the TRS was that it's a party which spearheaded the movement for a separate state, and that delivered a separate state, which is a demand that had been existing for several decades. So, by sort of changing their name, this try to change their identity. Of course, it's not if at all, if they end up losing, it won't be just because of that. But
Yeah.
clearly, I mean, it would have been better if KCR had prioritized just trying to retain the state and deliver on the promises he had made.
But generally on the ground, there has been a sense of corruption. There's been a sense, there are a lot of reports of land grabbing in and around Hyderabad. I mean, I used to be a reporter in Hyderabad. Land grabbing around Hyderabad is a 20, 30-year problem. It's not specific to this government. It's, every government in Hyderabad over the last few decades, in Andhra Pradesh as well, has had an issue with corruption and land grabbing. But in KCR's case particularly, there is a sense that the power is being held by only him and his family. Is that going against them within their party as well?
I think this land grab culture is also, I mean, there was a sentiment in among the people in Telangana that it's the outsiders from coastal Andhra who are coming and doing this land grab in and around Hyderabad, especially Kukatpalli and those areas.
Yeah.
And so when the TRS came to power, it was the sense that now our time has come and we will be the ones who will
So we
sort
will
of
grab the land.
do those things. So I think that's where this the sort of things happened with a bit of bit of vengeance to begin with, and in not a very controlled manner. But I think in the first term, no one sort of realized, because of course it's a government that was formed after a social movement. You can't dislodge those kind of governments very easily. But in the second term, expectations were high, and then all these things started bothering people, and it created a negative perception, which the Congress seems to have exploited pretty well.
Well, we have a couple of questions. If you don't mind, Aditya, I'd like to ask some of these questions. Prashant Bhushan Sharma. I don't think it's that Prashant Bhushan from Supreme Court, but it's just Prashant Bhushan Sharma who says, if exit polls are to be believed, Rajasthan continues its tradition, I think, switching between parties. Where did Mr. Gehlot, he says, lose the plot? I'm going to refine that question. See, where did he go wrong, if at all? What has he done wrong?
Of course, exit polls, two of the exit polls, I think it was India Today Access and today's Chanakya, did predict that the Congress might be ahead of the BJP. But I mean, if the results are going in the direction they seem to be going, I think what went wrong for Mr. Gehlot is that too many of the schemes and happened a little too late in the day. So he really couldn't do too much to sort of iron the issues in terms of delivery, and also to communicate that it is his government that is giving the schemes, because often many places the benefits were coming from the state government, but the voters thought it was coming from the central government and Modi was giving those things. So that was one issue. The second thing, because of the rebellion of Sachin Pilot and the MLAs who stayed loyal to Gehlot was in many ways indebted to them and gave them a free hand in running their constituencies. And that created a perception that these MLAs have become corrupt, and there was a great deal of resentment against the MLAs. And because he was indebted to those MLAs, he couldn't cut as many tickets as he probably needed to retain the state. So these two things seem to have gone wrong for Mr. Gehlot.
Uh, there's one more question about Rajasthan, but I do want to ask you this: the BJP's main criticism of Gehlot has been that because he's been fighting with Pilot this entire time, they've not really focused on development. The second criticism has been about women's safety. Do you believe that these two things are true on the ground, and is that going to hurt the Congress?
So, I'll actually take the women's safety thing first. If one looks at the Access India Today survey, the Congress is actually doing better among women than it is doing among men. It has a much higher lead among women voters, while the BJP has a very narrow lead among men voters. So, if at all women's safety is such a big issue, it doesn't seem to be affecting women voters as much. On the other hand, there are, of course, have been crimes against women in parts of Rajasthan, but that has been the case in other parts of the country as well. So, yeah, I think women voters is probably not what has harmed Gehlot at all. The second is, of course, the claim of underdevelopment or not enough development work. There's no doubt that factionalism has taken a toll on the Congress, and it did affect governance, at least for that duration. Um, there's another issue that probably harmed Gehlot due to the infighting is that the Gujar community, which voted overwhelmingly for the Congress, especially in eastern Rajasthan, just because they felt that Mr. Pilot could be the chief minister. That community is out to punish Mr. Gehlot. And they feel that Pilot will get a chance only if Mr. Gehlot loses this time. So that vote seems to be shifting away from the Congress. So yeah, these two things, that's how I feel they seem to have operated.
So that's really interesting. So basically, you're saying that the Sachin Pilot's support group within the Gujar community don't mind the Congress losing this election in order to get Gehlot out of the way, so that Sachin Pilot might stand a chance in the future. That's actually, that's sort of a tough fight there. If we look at Gehlot and Kamalnath, senior politicians, um, if either of them happen to lose this election, what is their political future? Kamal Nath always says that, I'm still young, I'm still fighting, all of these things. But really, Digvijay Singh as well. What could their respective political futures be after this election?
So I think, unfortunately for these two leaders, a perception seems to have been created in the central Congress ecosystem that they were operating as some sort of independent satraps. And like Kamal Nath gave an interview to a anchor who was blacklisted by the India Alliance, and when he was asked why he gave that interview, he said, "No, there is no India Alliance in Madhya Pradesh, so that's why I don't need to follow these rules." And Mr. Gehlot, of course, there was this entire episode between him and the central observers when they were trying to convince him to become the party president, and he wanted a say in the change of guard, which the high command didn't want. So, I mean, there have been issues between both these leaders and the high command. So, in case they both of them end up losing, both these states might be in for some kind of a generational change. And of course, in Rajasthan, it's very clear who the high command wants. It's Sachin Pilot. In Madhya Pradesh, it is not as clear. And I think some kind of arrangement will have to be worked out by keeping Digvijay Singh and Kamal Nath in the loop.
There's an interesting question, and incidentally, all of our questions are about Rajasthan. This is NK who says, if BJP does win Rajasthan, who will be the chief ministerial face? Now, BJP is not in the habit of announcing a chief ministerial candidate, only in the habit of announcing a prime ministerial candidate. But do you think that there's a possibility the name of Diya Kumari has been tossed about a bit as well? What is your reading of that situation?
It's quite possible, but it depends on the kind of majority BJP gets. If they get 130, 125 plus, a stable majority, and they didn't fight the elections in the name of any one leader, the central government will have its say. And I think there's nothing that Vasundhara Raje will be able to do about it. But if they get something like 100 seats or fall just short of 100 or just a little over 100, then it will be very difficult for the party to deny Vasundhara Raje the CM's chair, because in any eventuality, there will be a chunk of MLAs who will be completely loyal to Vasundhara Raje. So yeah, but yeah, then of course let's look at if BJP gets over 130. Diya Kumari is one option. Balaknath is another person we should not discount. He's contesting from the Tijara seat, known to be a very firebrand Hindutva leader. Called in this campaign, he's been called the Yogi Adityanath of Rajasthan. And the Yogi model has worked very successfully politically for the BJP, so they might be tempted to go for Balaknath. The
Yeah.
other leaders in the fray are Rajendra Singh Rathod, very seasoned state leader, has a very moderate image, and very respected in the in the Rajput community. Arjun Ram Meghwal, if the BJP wants to address resentment among Dalits, then Arjun Ram Meghwal is also a good option. And then, of course, there is a senior most central minister who has always been seen as a potential challenger to Vasundhara Raje's Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. So I think it's between these 4-5 leaders. Diya Kumari, again, as you
Yeah.
mentioned, she's been given a very safe seat to contest. Narpat Rajvi, the son-in-law of Bhairav Singh Shekhawat, was shifted to another seat just to accommodate Diya Kumari in that safe seat. So it indicates that the central leadership does favor Diya Kumari a great deal. And maybe that favor could eventually make her the CM someday.
In fact, for our audience who are not familiar with who Diya Kumari is, let me tell you, she is the granddaughter of the last Maharaja of Jaipur, of Man Singh. So she's considered sort of the Rajkumari, and this is a Rajkumari versus the Maharani, who is Vasundhara Raje, within the BJP, that sort of battle that's happening. And interestingly, she's been a member of parliament, and she was asked the night before her name was announced to contest in Jaipur. She's considered the daughter of Jaipur, so that's considered a very safe seat for her. But it was also seen, remember, when the names were announced, the lists were announced in the BJP, and Vasundhara Raje and her entire coterie was sort of sidelined in the first list. The announcement of Diya Kumari was seen as, this is our answer to that. So this is our replacement for Vasundhara Raje. So she's suddenly become really important within that entire environment, and everybody's keeping a very close eye on her. I'm just going to look at some of the numbers that are coming in, Aditya. For Telangana so far, the Congress, these are leads, guys, remember, and I'm reading this out at 9 in the morning, so these are just very early leads. The Congress is leading in 57 seats, the BRS in 34 seats, the BJP's lead is in about 5 seats. In Rajasthan, it's neck and neck as we had expected. We're going to put this up on the screen as well. In Rajasthan, the BJP is leading in 93 seats. The Congress is leading in 96. And that margin is so small that it's going to go back and forth for the next couple of hours and keep us on our toes, which is fun for us. May not be as fun for the guys in the political party headquarters who are watching these numbers. Chhattisgarh, BJP is leading in 37 seats and the Congress is leading in 47 seats. So the Congress has a comfortable lead. Like I said, these are early leads and these could change. Madhya Pradesh, the numbers have started. Some numbers are coming in. 198 leads have come in. BJP has 112 and the Congress has 86 leads. And the others, I mean, there are not too many numbers coming in so far. Remember, Mizoram is not counting today. Mizoram is counting tomorrow because Mizoram, if I understand correctly, did not want to count on Sunday. And the election commission finally decided that that was okay. It was actually the first time we saw a state say that we don't want to, want the counting date changed, because they normally have the voting date changed, but Mizo didn't want to count on Sunday, so they'll actually count tomorrow. Your first response and the numbers that we're seeing, Aditya?
I'm really curious about Rajasthan because when I checked just before joining, BJP was leading, and now it's really gotten close. So this is going to be very, very tough. But it's also something that might work to the advantage of both Ashok Gehlot and Vasundhara Raje, and it'll give them a great deal of leverage vis-a-vis their central leadership. Telangana seems to now be quite clearly going towards the Congress, and it's a big state, a very resource-rich state that the Congress could probably get if these numbers stabilize. And after Karnataka, it would mean that the Congress controls a great deal of the south, I mean, except for Kerala, of course.
Telangana, and I forgot. So, Kigai, we managed. We've got some numbers on the screen. We were struggling with that this morning. Remember, we're a small team. We're still trying to figure this out, but we want, the action. So we've now got numbers on the screen. Please appreciate the fact that our screen is clean and it's not jumping at you and giving you a seizure while you look at it. And I do want to ask you about Telangana. The Congress, led by DK Shivkumar, complaining of, I don't know if we can call it an Operation Lotus or an Operation Biryani, but they were basically saying that their MLAs or their candidates had already getting calls from KCR's BRS saying, come, skip over, and they've got the resorts ready, and they're going to move them all to Karnataka where they can keep them safe. And does this just seem like sort of early messaging, or do you think there's actually some truth to this on the ground?
I mean, I can understand why the Congress would be saying that, because they did lose a large number of their MLAs to the TRS, now BRS, during the last 5 years. I mean, they won a much higher number of seats, but by the time the assembly ended, they had about half of the ones who were actually elected. So I can understand the Congress's fears on that. But if the numbers are, if they do win a clear majority, I don't think any mischief would be possible. I mean, those things might. It's only in the eventuality of a hung assembly that that the resort politics would be required. But I somehow think Telangana will not give a hung assembly. Telugu states usually don't.
They decide clearly on one side or the other. We have a couple of more questions. Aman Pishabri joins us. Hi, Aman. He says, do government schemes and subsidies stop with a change in party? Will there be policy paralysis? And this is a really interesting question, right? Because the BJP and the Prime Minister has been very clear about what he calls the ravery culture, saying we're not going to give out this sort of free stuff. The Congress very clearly announcing the same set of guarantees or similar guarantees in all of the states that they campaign. What happens if someone has announced a certain number of sort of benefits or subsidies for the citizens and the government changes? Do they tend to cancel those subsidies? Is it even politically viable to cancel a subsidy once it's been announced, even by your opponent?
I think the more popular approach is to repackage the subsidies as with the name of the current government. Maybe so if I think if a KCR subsidy can be renamed something, and if in Rajasthan, if BJP wins, I'm sure Indira Rasoi will be changed into some other Mukhyamantri Rasoi or Deen Dayal Upadhyay Rasoi or something to that effect. So I think that is a way governments can sort of ensure that subsidies that people continue to benefit from these subsidies and yet derive political mileage out of that. So I don't think schemes will get cancelled, but yeah, a lot of schemes might just get repackaged, or newer schemes might come which are similar to these schemes.
So the Right to Bandhu scheme, which is the scheme in Telangana that had done really well for KCR, which is basically they were investing in farmers and actually giving them sort of, for want of a better term, seed investment. Can we call it that? And it did really well. It was not a loan waiver, but it was, hey, we're going to give you money to sort of get started, buy your tractor, buy your pump, do whatever you need in order to take your farming to the next level. And the farmers really responded to that. Remember, between Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, for our audience who are not familiar, Andhra Pradesh has the coast. It has Vijayawada. It has, these are very rich areas. They grow rice. It's the rice bowl per se of India. And the Telangana portions are dry, they're arid, there wasn't enough successful farming happening, there wasn't enough money, and they sort of felt like they were being, like Aditya was telling us, overridden by the rich guys in Andhra Pradesh. Now, KCR managed to split that up and also invest in the farmers to a point where they started doing well. Does the anti-incumbency of the corruption perhaps override that as well, Aditya?
I think yes. Also, I think expectations change. I think what happened in the first term was, of course, a great deal of historical injustices being sort of addressed. I think that was the sense that the first term was all about. But by the time the second term came, the economy of Telangana started doing much better, to KCR's credit partly. And so expectations really changed. And I mean, the kind of popularity that KCR had among farmers wasn't as much. Also, certain projects, a lot of land got taken over, farming land, and the protests against those projects also led to further resentment from farmers. So,
Mm.
I mean, for a number of these reasons, I think the kind of popularity KCR had among farmers um, isn't there anymore. I think the last mile delivery also suffered a bit during the last few years, which also added to the resentment against the BRS government.
Okay, so keeping Rajasthan interesting, and you're gonna see that update on the screen as well. BJP is now leading in 99. Congress is leading in 98. We're not going to be able to see a clear margin in this, for a while. Clearer leads appear emerging in Telangana, where the Congress is leading in 66, in BRS in 35. In Madhya Pradesh, Congress is leading in 100. BJP in 113. In Chhattisgarh, Congress is leading in 54 and BJP in 34. Talk to me about Madhya Pradesh. That one's turning out to be very close as well. Sort of 13 lead margin is not very sharp right now at this time.
I think I think lot of rounds are remaining, so many seats might just change hands. But I mean, it is clear that Shivraj Chauhan, the kind of the kind of anti-incumbency one would expect against for someone who has been CM for almost 18 years now. It's not there against him, and he still remains a very popular leader. He's also known as a very accessible chief minister, and a very affable, humble way of handling things, quite different from many of the other BJP chief ministers. So a lot of credit due to Shivraj Chauhan and the Ladli Behna scheme, which towards the end I think really gave him that last minute push. So I think, and Congress would probably have to reflect on how they handle this campaign. It's of course still early numbers, but I think Kamalnath, Digvijay Singh, and they sort of managed this entire election together. So and it remains to be seen how this pans out for both of them.
How important is Jyotiraditya Scindia in this election?
A lot would depend on how the MLAs loyal to him have done, because his entire clout within the BJP would depend on that. And of course, if BJP wins a sort of a close majority, then that would give Sindhya a little more leverage with the party central leadership. He's of course the central minister, holding an important portfolio. But in case the party does badly in the Sindhya belt, which is the Gwalior, Chambal, Guna, that region, then I think Sindhya, a lot of his political capital would go down. Last time the BJP did badly there, and of course Sindhya was in the Congress, because a lot of caste violence had led to Dalit consolidation in favor of Congress, and of course the Atrocities Act protests also led to a counter reaction from upper caste, who also didn't, who felt that the BJP is not doing enough to protect them. So BJP lost out support of both the forward and oppressed castes in that region. But this time, of course, the party has tried to address those issues, and Sindhya is also on board with them. So they would obviously hope to do well. One interesting figure actually in this entire thing, who's a non, is Dhirendra Shastri, the popular godman, and he wields a great deal of influence in the Chambal region. A few days back, we saw Vasundhara Raje going and paying her respects to Dhirendra Shastri. So he's one political player to really watch out for. Kamalnath also, interestingly, has good ties with Dhirendra Shastri. So if one is discussing the politics of MP and Rajasthan, this is one interesting player from outside the political sphere who wields a great deal of influence.
Some more questions. Can we expect horse trading if the difference of seats is not very big? If this, what does it say about our democracy? I think it's said plenty of things about our democracy up till now. And it's not just, horse trading now, when the election results, we've seen what we've seen. Operation Lotus, if we're officially calling it that, actually plays out for 2.5, 3 years after the elections are over, because there's constantly sort of a wheel clicking at the bottom underground, sort of constantly trying to pull people away. Look at Maharashtra. It's difficult for those of us who live in Maharashtra to even figure out which party is in power at any given point of time, because they're all in factions and they're all, sort of fighting, and nobody's actually clearly, called out a side yet. So it's no longer horse trading, is it, Aditya? The BJP and its Operation Lotus has given a completely new meaning to how this works.
I think the scale of horse trading has really, really changed. Earlier, we had, of course, one or two MLAs trickling down, get changing sides here and there, and flaunting the anti-defection law. But now, of course, the anti-defection law is nicely being subverted by entire factions being moved that side. And you rightly said about Maharashtra. Now you have both sides have a Sena and an NCP. So, so it's quite different. Of course, the Congress in Karnataka keeps threatening that they will do a counter Operation Lotus on the BJP. So I think in people like DK
if anybody has the gumption to do a reverse Lotus on the BJP, it's possibly DK Shiv Kumar. Nobody else.
And if Congress comes back to power in Telangana, I think there will be a threat to some of the BRS MLAs. I think the Congress would want to a bit of payback for the kind of defections that took place during the BRS era. So we
see, Aditya, this is the interesting thing about the Congress historically, right? The Congress is called the grand old party because many parties have birthed from the Congress. So every time a new party comes up in our country, a lot of those people come out of the Congress. So take, for example, Mamata Banerjee's TMC. Take, for example, Sharad Pawar's NCP, which are now strong parties, but they all came out of the Congress, and so did the TRS/BRS. KCR pulled a lot of his followers out of the Congress.
Absolutely. And the strange part in this is that, if a leader comes out of the BJP, their political career mostly gets finished. Madan Lal Khurana, Uma Bharti, Babulal Marandi, so many leaders, they left the BJP, BS Yediyurappa, and they had to come back and sort of make peace with the party. On the other hand, anyone who leaves the Congress actually becomes stronger. Mamata Banerjee holds more influence than she would ever have had she remained in the Congress. Same goes for Jagan Mohan Reddy or for Sharad Pawar. It does say a lot about how both these parties function, and the difference between having a cadre party and on one hand, which is the BJP, and a party of notables like the Congress on the other.
Yeah, so let me just look through the numbers once again. It's still looking very close in Rajasthan. Now the lead say BJP 93, Congress 94. So again, this is going to go down to the wire. It's going to be a little bit T20 is going to happen over here. And, if we remember what happened with our World Cup, we should not get excited about anything until the last, the last sort of ball is bowled. Telangana, interestingly, Congress is leading in 59 seats. That's numbers on your screen. The Congress is now leading in 61 seats, and the BJP has 8. The BRS is 37. In Chhattisgarh, the Congress is leading in 52 seats, and the BJP in 34. So that, is that lead, is that margin wide enough right now? Do you think that might close?
34. Yeah, I think this is getting comfortable for the Congress. I think it's. I don't see it change much from here. I would actually like to, in fact, go to some of the candidates, the VIP candidates who seem to be leading. So, K. Chandrasekhar Rao is leading in Gajwel. KTR is leading in Sirsilla. Bandi Sanjay of the BJP is leading in his seat in Karimnagar. Madhu Yakshi Gaud of the Congress, he's leading in his seat. Akbaruddin Owaisi is leading in Chandrayan Gutta in.
We're just going to try and get Aditya back. Also, remember, very interestingly, KCR Chandrasekhar Rao decided to contest in 2 different seats. I wonder if Aditya reads that as him being slightly insecure at that point. Like he said, the entire family, the KT Ramarao, who's his son, is also leading in the seat that he's contesting in. Harish Rao, who's the nephew, we're going to try and pull that up and see. He was contesting out of Siddipet, and we're going to see if he's leading there as well. those numbers that we're going to put up on your screen. The BJP, the Congress has crossed in its leads the halfway mark in Telangana. So remember, there are a total of 90 seats, and the Congress has crossed now 60. Yeah, it's crossed 61 seats out of a total of, I beg your pardon, 119 seats there. So Congress is looking very comfortable in Telangana. Congress is also looking very comfortable in Chhattisgarh. We put up Chhattisgarh as well. A total of 90 seats, 90. There it is. The halfway mark is 45. The Congress is leading in 52 seats. So that is a really comfortable place for the Congress to be in Chhattisgarh, at least. We're going to try and get Aditya. Aditya, yes, you were taking us through the star candidates or the VIP candidates of Telangana.
Yeah, I think Telangana, when I got cut off, probably Akbaruddin Owaisi was leading in Chandrayana in Hyderabad. Then in Madhya Pradesh, Shivraj Singh Chauhan and Kamal Nath are both leading in their respective seats. Narottam Mishra, the Home Minister, was trailing in the initial rounds. Very interesting character. I don't know if he has recovered ground since then, but that would be very surprising if Narottam Mishra ends up.
He's sort of the whistle for the BJP, right? Narottam Mishra starts up a lot of controversy. He tends to be fairly communal in the statements that he makes. So he's in the news a lot. It'll be very interesting to see how his constituency reacts to him.
Absolutely. And Narottam Mishra, he sort of says the things that Shivraj Singh Chauhan often doesn't. He's not known to share a very great equation with the Chief Minister. And I think he sort of, because he feels that if he gets in the news and is seen in a particular way ideologically, might improve his chances of becoming CM. Narendra Singh Tomar, the Agriculture Minister of India, he is also leading in his seat in Datia. He's fighting a very tough seat. So this is important, and if it is going to be a tough battle between the BJP and the Congress, seats like these where BJP fielded its senior leaders might just make a difference for the party.
So here's the thing, right? So in Telangana, Congress is currently leading in 62 seats, so well past that halfway mark. Same with Chhattisgarh. So both of these seats with the states looking a little comfortable for the Congress at this point, but the gap between the Congress and the BJP widening in the other two. In Madhya Pradesh, the BJP is leading in 138 seats out of a total of 230. And in Rajasthan, the BJP is at 99, the Congress is at 88. So that gap has widened. And as the boxes get opened and counting proceeds, you expect the gap to get even wider, Aditya?
So in Rajasthan, there was this theory that was there in the state that the state government employees are very supportive of Mr. Gehlot because he's really done a lot for them in terms of their pension scheme and everything. So and a lot of the postal ballots are of state government employees who are placed in other parts of the state because of election duty. So it is possible that part of the initial leads could have been due to them. Of course, it would not have extended till this hour right now, but so it is possible as more and more seats get counted that the lead might increase in Rajasthan. But in Madhya Pradesh, that explanation might not work. So it really could go either ways. A lot of seats in MP are very remote and tribal dominated. So those seats will report a little later, and Congress is expecting to do better in those pockets. So I think MP, we probably may not see the same pattern extending for rest of the county.
So I just noticed something really interesting, right? Sachin Pilot is trailing in Tonk.
Okay. Oh, this is surprising. He won with a huge margin last time. And probably among the highest in the state. But he was BJP, of course, carried out a very aggressive campaign against him. They brought Ramesh Bidhudi, who is their South Delhi MP, and made that hate speech in Parliament, and also belongs to the same Gujar community as Sachin Pilot. They got him to handle their campaign in Tonk. And his entire mandate was to somehow wean away Sachin Pilot's Gujar support. So Tonk is a very interesting seat. There's Gujars in very sizable numbers, and the Muslims in very sizable numbers.
9:30, Aditya, and if the information says that Sachin Pilot is trailing, how do you think that might reverse as these numbers get counted even further, or is it as of now still oh my God, I can't believe this is happening, and is
It is
Biduri going to
surprising.
get big sort
Yeah,
of?
given the margin he won last time, him trailing at any point is a bit surprising. Doesn't mean he'll lose the seat. I think many rounds are to be counted, and since, as we were discussing, it's a very, I mean, the urban areas are Muslim majority, but the rural areas have a Gujar majority. So it depends on which area, with the booth of which area is being counted right now in talks. So it's possible that Pilot could recover from here. But him trailing itself is a big thing, which means clearly he has lost some ground compared to last time.
So Biduri has made a dent. His really bad unparliamentary behavior seems to have paid off in some way. It's made a bit of a celebrity out of him, and that celebrity is now being used, within the caste bracket to sort of break away votes, and that seems to have worked. And there we have to stop for a second as a society and sort of consider where we are. Ashok Gehlot is leading. Vasundhara Raje is leading. Diya Kumari is leading. Rajendra Rathore is leading. In their respective seats. KCR is trailing in Kamareddy. Now, again, I was, KCR is actually contesting in two different constituencies, two different seats, which is normally considered a slightly insecure thing to do for someone like him.
Yeah, and Kamareddy, if he's trailing Kamareddy, which means Revant is leading in Kamareddy because they were up against each other in that seat. I think the idea for KCR, of course, was that because Kamareddy is closer to the Maharashtra border, it might act as a launchpad for him to expand in the neighboring areas of Maharashtra. But that if he's trailing at this point, it's a very difficult news for him, and maybe this gamble backfired and gave an opportunity to the Congress.
Mohammad Azharuddin is trailing in Jubilee Hills so far. That was just interesting. Nothing really to read into that, but I do want to ask you about Owaisi. Owaisi here has made it clear that he will go with KCR if need be. Is that understood? And where does that sort of place him on the national stage?
Yes, if KCR is short by about 5-7 seats, then Owaisi will definitely help him out. The problem for Owaisi will come if KCR is fall short by even more. Then either KCR will have to take help from the BJP, and if BJP comes in, Owaisi will have to go out. And alternatively, if KCR loses, then Owaisi loses a great deal of leverage that he enjoyed in Telangana. And the Congress and Owaisi are always at loggerheads. And the last time the Congress was in power, Akbaruddin Owaisi was arrested and Kiran Kumar Reddy was the chief minister over there. So, I mean, that's also then that entire episode in Charminar happened when the protests around that people who wanted to get a temple constructed, and so on that issue, Owaisi withdrew support from the Congress government. So if the Congress comes to power in Telangana, we might expect a little more friction between the MIM and the Congress over there.
So, Aditya, I'm just going to introduce your colleague Himanshi, the here senior correspondent who covered Rajasthan, joins us as well. Himanshi, thank you for joining us. Before I ask you a question, I just want to point out also Kailash Vijayvargiya is leading in Indore, and so is Narendra Singh Tomar leading in Bhimani. This is in Madhya Pradesh. So, interestingly, these sort of national leaders who've been parachuted are also doing well for the BJP. The BJP sort of made that move. Going back to Himanshi, it's still fairly close in Rajasthan for the BJP and the Congress. But are you noticing any interesting trends there between the East Rajasthan, where the Gujar community had come out very strong for Sachin Pilot? The numbers are telling us that Sachin Pilot is trailing a little bit. What's going on?
This is of course interesting. I mean, if Sachin Pilot so far is trailing, but I think trends will change as we as we progress here. But the one thing that I also observed on ground was that unlike last election, the Gujar vote might not come to Congress in a bulk this time, because they probably they've realized that for their leader who's Sachin Pilot, they've realized that for him to take the center stage in the Congress party, Gehlot has to go. So for that, voters on a whole might want to quote unquote punish the Congress, because that was the word that was being on the ground, being used on the ground. So Sachin Pilot might not lose his seat because these are still early trends. But yes, there is a possibility that the Gujar vote on a whole might move to the BJP this time.
Actually, tell me something. So we do know that Rajasthan traditionally tends to have a lot of linked families, right? Lots of people from the villages joined the armed forces, at the Jawan or the Subedar sort of stage. The Congress brought up the Agniveer scheme as in its campaign, saying this is what the BJP is doing to sort of cheat you out of the benefits you get as army people. But what the signature of those families is that they tend to be very nationalist, which is a emotion that goes with the BJP. So, what was your sense when you were traveling on the ground as to which way the army, military families or the Jawan families were voting in Rajasthan?
Congress largely in their campaign in the run-up to the elections, they did focus on a lot of micro schemes. I mean, be it pointing out the Agniveer problem or launching their own welfare schemes. But it's very difficult to gauge a sentiment that these are the issues that are being used to vote. I mean, when you meet a family or when you go to people and ask them, as to which way are they inclined to, it's not like they'll never tell you that, it's this one particular scheme and this is what is, we're angry with BJP for, or, we're angry with the Congress for. So, and also, Agniveer is a scheme when we talk of Agniveer, we sort of talk about it at a national level. But when people vote in a state election, that is not primarily an issue. So my the larger picture that I could draw from the ground was that people weren't exactly, they weren't going to vote on the basis of this. But still, there could have been some silent voters, because that is what probably explains this. Because the difference between the BJP and Congress so far is not huge. So a lot of people were expecting that the Congress will not perform as well, because just of the trend that we follow that we see in Rajasthan. So in that sense, probably these schemes, the discourse around it has worked in favor of the Congress, because they have managed to communicate this with the voters on the ground that these are the things, and this is how the BJP is going to function. So in tandem with the central government. So probably yes, the voters did vote on those on those criteria, and that is what explains this narrow gap between the Congress and the BJP so far.
So that gap is not as narrow anymore. If we look at the numbers now, the BJP is leading in 99 seats. Remember, the halfway mark is 100, and the Congress is leading in 83 seats. So it seems the gap seems to be widening, and if the BJP crosses 100, it will effectively have crossed the halfway mark as well. So Aditya's back. Do you see, the BJP crossing that halfway mark in leads in Rajasthan? And it does seem like that gap is getting wider. Becoming more comfortable there, the BJP?
It does seem to be going in that direction. Also, I think others are at 17 right now, I was seeing close to. So that is pretty interesting. A lot will depend on who these others are. If they are Congress rebels, then the chances are that they might just come back to the Congress and boost the Congress numbers. And if they are BJP rebels, and they'll probably go back to the BJP, then there is the Rashtriya Loktantrik Party. There is the Bharatiya Adivasi Party, which Himanshi covered on the ground. Very, very interesting political player in southern Rajasthan. So I think in case BJP falls short or Congress falls short, these players might just come into action.
But do you expect either of them to fall short? BJP leading in 98, it needs 100.
It of course early leads, but yeah, BJP might just pull through by by about 5-7 seats. Let's see where this heads. But yeah, BJP may not need the help of their own rebels and the others.
No, I'm laughing because this is a political editor thing, right? All political editors, every time you ask them a question till like 12 baje, they'll be like, "Nee, early leads, early leads." I'm not sticking
I
my
have
neck
to
out.
justify my relevance till then. No, that's why.
Himanshi, on the ground as well, I do want to understand the mood for or against Ashok Gehlot. Of course, everybody did tell us that it's not, Rajasthan doesn't vote on religion, we vote on caste, invariably. So Gehlot has that large Jat vote. There's also the farmer vote that's important. But what is the opinion about him personally as minister? Do the people of Rajasthan want him as chief minister for another term?
I think the welfare schemes that the Congress launched in the run up to the polls, and how they were launched. I mean, how Gehlot was sort of placed at the center of the campaign. All the schemes that were not launched in his name. He was probably the only. It wasn't like Gehlot and Pilot were campaigning together, or both Gehlot and Pilot were being projected as the chief ministerial faces or as the leader of the campaign. So in that sense, the Congress went all out with just Gehlot as their leader, and the election was fought in his name. And one thing that this election did is to, it has cemented his place as sort of a mass leader, where even when I was traveling on the ground, people were talking about him, people were talking about his schemes, and also, how they were advertised, because there were these big hoardings, a very BJP style, advertising policy they followed this time, where we're very used to seeing Prime Minister Modi's hoardings, those big banners and everything. Here in Rajasthan, it was Gehlot. You could see his face painted everywhere. Even in the remotest districts of the state, his presence was there, and people were talking about his schemes, good or bad. They were like, okay, the schemes are great, but they're not reaching us. Last mile connectivity was a problem, but good in whatever sense, people were talking about him, and that sort of has made him very popular. And also, what has added to his popularity is that the BJP didn't really have a CM face. So, he wasn't really fighting anybody who was in person. BJP looked very confused in terms of who is the leader of their campaign. So that has probably also added to the public sentiment going in Gehlot's favor, that okay, here we have a person who's been around for so many years, and the previous term at least. So in that sense, I think, yeah, I mean, it's really worked for the fact that the BJP looked a little listless in terms of who they want to lead the party, and at the same time, the Congress pushed Gehlot as the single leader of the party.
But interestingly, the numbers on your screen tell us that the BJP is now at 101 leads, where the Congress is at 83. And I remember having this conversation with a couple of our analysts as well. Initially, we can bring Aditya back for this, because while BJP lost Karnataka, it was largely attributed to the fact, Aditya, that the BJP did not have a local leader face. They had lost out on Yediyurappa, they sidelined him, and that really hurt it. But the BJP was very clear they wanted to do the same thing again in Rajasthan. They sidelined Vasundhara Raje. They went without a local face. They sort of positioned the Prime Minister as their lead campaign face at this point. In the posters, in all of the, Vasundhara Raje was among all of the smaller sort of politicians in that, in terms of font size, compared to the Prime Minister, who was the lead very clearly. So the BJP not wanting to budge from its policy of we will not sort of empower a local strong man, and in this case, a strong woman, not announcing chief ministerial candidate. And in this case, it's seeming to have paid off.
I think the difference between Rajasthan and Karnataka is that the language barrier is not there for the Prime Minister in Rajasthan or in Madhya Pradesh or Chhattisgarh for that matter. In Karnataka, there is still that barrier, even though PM is popular, but he still can't reach out to the voters in the way that he can in these Hindi heartland states. So BJP probably can afford this kind of an approach in the northern states. Also, there was, I mean, with Vasundhara Raje, it's always a gamble because there are, of course, people who are extremely loyal to her and who believe she has done a terrific job as chief minister. But there are equal number of people within BJP supporters who feel that Vasundhara Raje didn't do enough, or she alienated certain caste groups and lobbies. So I think the BJP decided to take this gamble, and the numbers seem to indicate that it has paid off.
We have a question, Aditya, from Aman, who says that India Today says Kamal Nath is trailing. I don't believe it is. According to us, his number, he's not trailing. He's leading, isn't he?
Yeah, he was leading until when I last saw, and it would be very unlikely if Kamal Nath loses his own seat. But overall, of course, it seems to be a disappointing day for Kamal Nath because the Congress in all probability, is going to lose the state.
Yeah. And also, this was personal for Kamal Nath. After the way his government was sort of ousted by Shivraj Singh Chauhan, Jyotiraditya Scindia walking out on him not being able to sort of hold that together, this campaign would have been his sort of way of getting back, but that's not going to be the case. Again, we did talk about this a little bit. What happens to Kamal Nath going forward? He's always been sort of a national politician. What do you think is going to happen now?
I think it's going to be a very difficult time for Kamal Nath from now on because he also has followed a certain approach in this campaign, which is not in line with what the Congress does nationally. He flirted quite extensively with Hindutva outfits like the Bajrang Sena. Our reporter Fatima Khan will join later in the session. She did a very extensive profile of the Bajrang Sena and Congress's Hindutva supporters, some of whom had even campaigned for Yogi Adityanath in 2022 in Uttar Pradesh. If once and Congress nationally under Mr. Kharge and Rahul Gandhi, they are very clearly following an anti-RSS, anti-Hindutva line. So Kamal Nath's politics wasn't in line with that. He, of course, justified it, saying that the realities of his state demand that he does that. So, but now if even after all that they fail to win Madhya Pradesh, it would probably mean the end of his stint in state politics. I'm sure the Congress would still accommodate him in some way or the other in national politics, maybe even make him contest the Lok Sabha election next year. But as the Congress's face in Madhya Pradesh, this is probably the end of Kamal Nath's era.
So, one more interesting sort of politician, Vasundhara Raje, and I'll take this question to Himanshi first. Himanshi, the BJP now leading quite clearly in Rajasthan. Let's assume, hypothetically speaking, because as Aditya keeps reminding us, these are early leads. Let's assume the BJP does win the state. What happens to Vasundhara Raje? Will her sidelining then be sort of cast in stone?
Yes, I mean, even if the BJP, no matter, I mean, of course, there's no chance now that they're losing, but even if no matter if they have won or yeah, I mean, as per early trends. So, if the BJP wins with a comfortable majority here, it's, I think, the end of road for her. Her in the her career within the party. What she does after this, if she tries to go solo, start her own party or something, I mean, that's for her to see. But yes, I think if the BJP wins comfortably, it will her sidelining will be justified. But if the difference, or if the if the gap is narrow, I think in that sense we'll have to really check who are the others who are winning. A lot of Vasundhara Raje's supporters did, her confidants, they did contest as independents. So if the gap is narrow, and if she still has some hold on the others or the independents who won, then she might come back into the picture, and she might really help the party form the government. But so far, I mean, with the numbers that we're seeing right now, it does look like Vasundhara Raje's sidelining is it will be justified, and she'll have to look for options outside BJP, or
Yeah,
Yeah.
but like Aditya pointed out a little while ago, no one has really found options outside the BJP. They always wind up just sort of satelliting and then coming back with random family members, to contest in their place. Um, so just reading out some of the things. Baghel is trailing from Patan in Chhattisgarh. Aditya, another like interesting upset as of 9:43.
Yeah, this I think he will probably pull through in the end. It doesn't seem that he will be under very significant threat. But of course, I mean, this is disappointing for him to even trail in a few rounds. Uh, but yeah, and the BJP, of course, gave a very tough fight to Baghel because they wanted to tie him down to the constituency and ensure that he doesn't get to campaign across the state. So I think that BJP seems to have really put up a good challenge in his seat. But I do think he will eventually pull through. And if he doesn't, there is always TS Singh there.
So people have begun arriving at Revant Reddy's house in Hyderabad with flowers, and they're starting to celebrate. Security has come in to Revant Reddy's house. Are you comfortable calling Telangana?
Yeah, no doubt. I think
Yeah.
it seems pretty.
And what about Chhattisgarh?
Chhattisgarh also seems to be clear. I don't think things will change in Chhattisgarh. See, I think smaller states where I think the less amount of remote places are there, it's easier to call. Rajasthan is like there are 4 or 5 regions, so it becomes a little complicated. Madhya Pradesh again, 4 regions which all of them vote differently. So one is a little wary, but Telangana in that sense I think seems to be pretty clear by now. What isn't clear, of course, is who the Congress will make chief minister. Revant Reddy, of course, will have the probably the most strongest case to make since he was the face of the campaign and he led the entire campaign. But there are the leaders who have been in Congress for longer, like Uttam Kumar Reddy. And of course, if the Congress wants to make a Dalit chief minister, there are very strong Dalit leaders in Telangana as well. So it will be interesting who the Congress chooses in the end.
Yeah, so this is, this is really interesting. And just, I know that you have to, go at 10 because you have like a ton of work to do, and I'm going to let you get to it. But the interesting thing about the BRS in Telangana is that they sort of treated the Congress like a non-entity for the last 2 years. I mean, they just didn't consider them a threat at all. Was that arrogant? And are they now sort of, from what we understand, the party is really struggling. Not only is KCR himself trailing in one seat, the party itself is fully struggling across Telangana.
It was arrogance, no doubt. But also Karnataka happened. And Karnataka really changed things for the Congress and Telangana and Karnataka. Many regions have great cultural similarities, especially the Hyderabad Karnataka belt, Bidar, and those regions which are for them, Hyderabad is the nearest big city. So I think there's a lot of interaction there. So I think Karnataka and Congress got a great deal of resources, and then of course Mr. Kharge, who is from the Hyderabad Karnataka region, and he understands Telangana very well. And a lot of the outreach with Dalit outfits, Mr. Kharge has been doing personally. He did it in Karnataka, he's done it again in Telangana. And this entire discourse of commoners versus feudal elites, sort of a dig at K. Chandrasekhar Rao, who belongs to the feudal Velamma caste. So, that narrative the Congress seems to have gained from.
So we understand that the BJP leads in early trends in Madhya Pradesh. Shivraj Singh Chauhan is meeting with Jyotiraditya Scindia as we speak. That's a piece of information that's coming in, right now. So really interesting sort of movements, this morning. Aditya telling us that perhaps Chhattisgarh and, Telangana are a given. So Aditya, the larger national sort of picture, BJP now completely ousted from South India, but has managed a strong, very strong hold over these two very important states of Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, which means that 2024 is as interesting as ever.
I think if BJP manages to win back Rajasthan and retain Madhya Pradesh, it would be a net win for the BJP today. and because the Congress would have won the two smaller states, Chhattisgarh, which has only about 11 MPs, and Telangana, which has 17 at the national level, whereas Rajasthan alone has 25 and Madhya Pradesh has 29. So for the BJP, no doubt it will be a very, very big win. Congress would also be happy having won Telangana, which will, of course, help it in terms of resources and its dominance of the South. Uh, uh, I think what might happen as a result, if let's assume BJP wins Rajasthan and MP and Congress wins Telangana and Chhattisgarh, I think we are looking at a much more bipolar 2024 election. Congress will, in all probability, wield much greater influence within the India alliance, and there will be. I think they will try to dictate terms
Yeah,
to the other parties, and
that may
on
not
the
go
other,
well.
yeah, that may not go down that well with the other parties. So it then remains to be seen whether
So
the
actually,
other
this is
parties
really
are
interesting.
comfortable or
Just
not.
push this point before I let you go. The Congress has, I mean, it's not traditionally, but under Rahul Gandhi at least, made several attempts at alliances, failed several attempts at alliances at seat sharing point because those negotiations never go well. So you're actually saying these two victories that the Congress is taking home of Telangana and Chhattisgarh is going to hurt the negotiations even further because Congress is going to be even more bloated when it comes in. They're going to say, hey, look, we've won more states, so we should really call the shots. We're the biggest party. You should all listen to us. And that is going to put the India alliance in a fair amount of trouble.
Because they would have just defeated a very strong regional party. So the Congress would fancy its chances of taking over the votes of other regional parties. And one party whose vote they uh, really want to take over is that of the Samajwadi Party in Uttar Pradesh. They feel that they can't revive in UP unless either they take over the SP or the BSP's base, or at least a part of their base among minorities and a section of the oppressed caste. So I think Congress really wants that base, and they will probably try and expand in that space. Now, whether the regional party, to what extent are they willing to accommodate the Congress? Because the Congress would, if it comes to seat sharing, for instance, the Congress would want a uh, sh- uh, much greater share of the 80 seats in UP than probably the SP would like to give. Then there is the Aam Aadmi Party. The Congress and Aam Aadmi Party have a much even more bitter relationship than the Congress has with the Samajwadi Party. So if the Congress has just defeated KCR, and KCR and Kejriwal are known to be in good terms, the Congress would drive a harder bargain in Punjab and also demand more space in Delhi than the AAP would like to give. Yes, probably a little slightly more acrimonious India alliance internal dynamics in the months to come.
So interesting numbers have moved in Madhya Pradesh. The BJP is leading in 130. The Congress is leading at 98. That gap has gotten, quite wide there for Madhya Pradesh. Rajasthan BJP leading in 97, Congress in 85. Um, and I'll also ask Himanshu this question, but Aditya, before you go, is Diya Kumari likely to be the next chief minister of the state of Rajasthan?
If BJP gets 97, I don't think it will be Diya Kumari. She or even Balaknath, they would find it difficult to sort of rule with a smaller majority. I think then they would need a much more seasoned leader. Either they might just be forced to go back to Vasundhara Raje, or with someone who has more political finesse, like Rajendra Rathod or Arjun Ram Meghwal or Gajendra Singh Shekhawat. A leader who can sort of lead this narrow majority. If because 97 means BJP needs four more MLAs from among rebels. Many of them could be Vasundhara Raje loyalists, or they need the support of Hanuman Beniwal's party, who again then might want a say in who becomes chief minister. They are a Jat party. They might not be comfortable with a Rajput like Diya Kumari. I think BJP will need some very deft handling of Rajasthan if this is the kind of majority they are getting.
Yeah. All right. Aditya, I know that you have to run. Thank you so much for your time. I do hope we can catch you again during the day when you're writing your copy and you have a little more time for us when you found something interesting in the numbers. But I'm going to take the conversation back to Himanshi. We have more people from the Quint team joining us in a bit. But Himanshi, interesting question about how the BJP is going to choose, if it has to, a face for the chief minister's seat in Rajasthan, because now leading in 99. So 99-83 is where the numbers in Rajasthan are at this point. What's your guess?
I mean, it's pretty much in line with what Aditya also just pointed out, that if they're only leading with a slight majority by the end of it, I think they will need a more seasoned politician, and they might have no option but to go back to Vasundhara Raje. And honestly, that is what Raje was also backing on throughout her campaign. I did a report and I spoke to a lot of BJP workers. I think it was 2 months before the state went to polling, and a lot of people told me that eventually, by the end of it, Raje, what she was trying was to negotiate for more number of candidates who were her own loyalists. She was trying for the party to give more tickets to her loyalists. I think she did see this coming, because eventually, if it's a very close, if it's a very close result or a very tight result, the party will have no option but to go with the person who yields more command on, the winning candidates or the MLAs eventually. So in that sense, yes. But if the party does have a comfortable, if they move to a more comfortable number, they might want to go with somebody like a Diya Kumari or a Balaknath, because there were some surveys which came on the exit polls, on the exit polls day, where Balaknath was apparently the most preferred choice for the chief minister after Ashok Gehlot, which was quite surprising, because we've seen that election in Rajasthan. It's not fought on a religious, along the religious lines, and Balaknath, his form of politics, or his position himself, is like a Hindutva leader. People call him the yogi of Rajasthan. So in that sense, that was pretty surprising, and in him the BJP also has another option. So I think for now, 3 or 4 people are still in the running: Vasundhara Raje, Diya Kumari, Balaknath, and if need be, they might want to go with Rajendra Rathore or somebody else who's more seasoned and who has more say in the state politics.
Well, Ishwar joins us as well from the Quint. He's associate editor. Traveled through Rajasthan, Ishwar?
Yes, traveled through Rajasthan, 5 cities. It was a bike ride, and mostly focused on the areas where Mr. Pilot has quite a lot of clout, including his own constituency. But as we speak, currently he is trailing from his constituency, so that's quite a big deal.
Since you went there.
So, I mean, it's not surprising that currently he's trailing, because as Aditya keeps reminding us, these are early trends. But I mean, when we were on the ground, it was clear that there was an undercurrent against Pilot. There was a lot of, people adore him. His charm hasn't gone anywhere. But what has happened traditionally with the constituency like Tonk is that, firstly, he was the first non-Muslim candidate ever to be fielded in the constituency since forever by the Congress. Secondly, the Gujar factor really worked for him in 2018. And what people also voted for in 2018 when it came to Sachin Pilot is that they thought they are voting for either a chief minister or a deputy chief minister. But this time, through the 5 years with all the infighting with Ashok Gehlot, which mostly kept him pinned to state level politics, there was an undercurrent of quite some resentment in the local voters, as to most of them said that, we are so used to having a local candidate who's readily and easily available to us, that compared to that, Pilot was quite a big name. And many said that the historic mandate of 55,000 votes, which he won with in 2018 in Tong's history, is not going to be the same case again this time. There was also quite some resentment within the Muslim section of the voters, with several statements of Pilot not having gone down well with the local community there. His statement on Tablighi Jamaat or his silence on the Junaid Nasir case. In fact, we also had an incident a few months ago where Muslim Congress Party workers, they kind of cornered Pilot while he was visiting the constituency and asked him in front of cameras as to why you haven't given a statement on Junaid Nasir yet. So lots of factors were at play. What also I think went a little against Pilot this time was the BJP had a clear strategy to kind of pin him down to his own constituency with three key Gujar leaders in the region. One was Lok Sabha MP Sukhbir Singh Jaunpuria, big Gujar face in the region. Then the party brought in Ramesh Bidhudi, who's a national Gujar face for the community. And third, in fact, was right next to Tong from the constituency of Deoli Uniara. The BJP fielded Vijay Bensla, son of Kirodilal Bensla, who was one of the biggest Gujar leaders that the state has ever seen. So quite a lot of factors have gone against Pilot this time, and there was a clear strategy at play from the BJP. But then it remains to be seen because we are still 2 hours into the counting, and let's see what happens, especially in Tong. Also, if we speak about the constituency of Sawai Madhopur, which comes in the Tong Sawai Madhopur Lok Sabha, we quite have a tough battle there with current Rajya Sabha MP Kirodi Lal Meena leading from the constituency. And what was at play in Sawai Madhopur was the factor that worked against sitting Congress MLA Danish Ali. Now, this is a constituency where among the Gujars, the fan following of Sachin Pilot is very, very strong. Like, his supporters are quite personal about Pilot's victory. And the Gujar leaders, etc., that we spoke to on the ground, said that the major reason that they would not vote for Danish Ali this time is because of what happened back in 2020 when the entire rebellion by Pilot, which was led in Manesar. Danish Ali was one of the 3 MPs that switched from the Sachin Pilot camp to the Ashok Gehlot camp at that time. So that plays on the minds of Gujar voters in Sawai Madhopur, and Sachin Pilot's charm is what the Congress is why the Congress is going to is trailing in this seat.
Yes, and the numbers are looking interesting, but effectively what the exit polls have told us, and I'll just take our audience through those numbers right now. The BJP in Madhya Pradesh leading in 131 seats, the Congress in 94. The Rajasthan BJP has crossed that halfway mark. It's at 103. Remember, it needs 100 to form government in Rajasthan. So, you know, while we keep saying that this is still early, I want to point out that now BJP is looking more and more comfortable with its lead in both Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. And then, of course, there's Telangana and Chhattisgarh, which I think has completely gone the Congress's way so far. And so, you know, that's an interesting space as well. Ishwar, Nagarjun Rao has asked us a question. He said, is there a clear north-south divide in how people are voting? Or perhaps looking at the BJP, where the BJP seems to be getting stronger in those Hindi portions. And the interesting thing is it's Hindi, right? So the BJP has that language advantage which it lacks when its star campaigner, which is the Prime Minister or the Home Minister or JP Nadda or any of these sort of national leaders go down south, they have trouble communicating, which they don't in places like Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, and that sort of makes them even stronger going into the general elections. So, is the North looking at the BJP differently from the South, or is it just language?
Well, I think the election trends state after state that we see, it is quite clear that the South has started voting differently than it used to before. I mean, even for regional parties, like if we take the BRS right now, KCR has been in power for the past 10 years. We all saw what happened in Karnataka recently, where the BJP has always been quite a strong face in the state. But the lead that the Congress took in the earlier Karnataka elections was massive. So from electoral results, yes, it clearly seems that the North and South are voting differently. Even with states like, for example, I mean, Rajasthan. Rajasthan has a trend of flipping governments every 5 years. And BJP again has been for quite a while a very strong phase there. But despite that kind of, I mean, if we speak about
Yeah.
Ashok Gehlot, for example, as a chief minister, a lot of his critics on the ground that we met also said that this is one of the chief ministers who has done a lot of work. But despite that, the BJP is leading the way it is, despite not having a chief ministerial face. So it clearly shows that there is, again, a proper pattern that we can draw now that the South has no presence of the BJP at all.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So we have right now one more correspondent from the Quint team who joins us. Meenakshi Shashikumar joins us. She covered Telangana. Just the person to have, Meenakshi, because we have a couple of questions for you. One question is from Aditya, who says, "What is causing the BRS downfall?" And that's interesting. So it's not just KCR, but the entire party. What did you pick up? Was it arrogance, or is there more to it?
So I think there are several things at play here. Like if you look at it, one of the main things would be that there was a lot of anger against BRS MLAs on the ground, right? So when I was in sorry, can you hear me?
So your connection's a little weak.
Okay.
Yeah, try now.
Can you hear me?
No, that's still breaking up. We're going to just, my colleague Gira is going to call you and see if we can improve on that connection. In the meantime, Ishwar, Sachin Pilot's still trailing.
Yes, Sachin Pilot is still trailing, and that is something, in fact, we had anticipated quite a well, because if you speak to local experts, there was an undercurrent for sure. And what was very interesting when we were on the ground was that you switch on the camera or your voice recorder and speak to people, they will say a lot of good things about Pilot. They will praise Pilot. They will say that a lot of stuff that had never been done before. We haven't seen so much development. Pilot is the tallest leader, blah, blah, blah. But the moment you speak to people off the record, the undercurrent was quite clear. The undercurrent from within the party was quite clear. The undercurrent of Pilot, the undercurrent against Pilot within the Congress party and the local Tonk unit was quite strong. There were certain reasons also behind it. I mean, in terms of development, people did feel that yes, a lot of things were done which were trailing for a few years. His work in terms of the local medical college was widely praised. And adding to that, Gehlot's scheme of free treatment in government hospitals for about 25 lakhs, that added to the Congress's prowess in the region. But what people particularly felt missing was this long pending demand of rail connectivity for Tonk, which people said that we know it was the job of the central government, but Pilot apparently got so busy in the infighting that he didn't really do as much as he could have, a leader of his stature could have.
Yeah,
In terms of development, also people feel that, we thought we have a national name like Sachin Pilot, and but as much as development he could have gotten even while he was the deputy chief minister, we didn't see it that much. Thirdly, what largely bothered voters was the kind of lack of personal connect that Pilot that they didn't feel from Pilot the way they have felt from their previous candidates. Even if you look at the narrative that the BJP was running in the region, even the BJP candidate Ajit Mehta, who's currently leading, he said that this is a fight between the son of Tonk and a national face. And if you look at the campaign that Sachin Pilot has done, a lot of local experts said that we have never seen Sachin Pilot in the past go from door to door, which was another point the BJP picked on, that a local Tonk leader, the son of Tonk, has forced a national leader to go from door to door for campaigning. So even Pilot did feel that undercurrent, because if you look at his speeches as well, he constantly said that this is one seat where the national politics is going to have a close eye on. So he knew that there is an undercurrent, and that's what reflected in his campaigns as well. So I think it's currently that undercurrent at play. A lot of people were confident that he might win, but with not
Ishwar, did the split between Pilot and Gehlot cost the Congress? Because till the last day, the BJP was still, including the Prime Minister, was reminding the people of Rajasthan and the Gujar community that follows Sachin Pilot of all of the things that Gehlot said about him. Nikamma and all of those words that were used, and so it never really. So even though Sachin Pilot went around saying that, hey, this is behind us, I'm fine, everything is done. Anil says the foolishness of Sachin Pilot has costed the Congress. Aman Peshawari said, with Pilot trailing, does this mean his future in the Congress is at risk? I mean, his dream of CM is going to have to wait, because no congressman is becoming CM right now. But was that split, and the fact that they kept it going for so long, did that split actually cost them this election?
It clearly has cost them, because even in his own constituency, while a lot of people empathized with him, a lot of people had this sympathy that he has been sidelined, he deserved to be the chief minister, he's done so much for the party, he deserved better positions. But at the end, for Tonk, the local factors weighed in more heavily on their minds than the sidelining. But on a national level, in Jaipur, in other constituencies that we went to, people were quite not happy with the infighting between Gehlot and Pilot that went on for a good till few months ahead of the elections, and there was no solution in sight from the Congress party. Even his Jan Sangharsh Yatra that he had embarked on in May this year, that grabbed quite a few headlines, and that clearly it had clear attacks on Ashok Gehlot as well, the one that he had started from Sikar, issues like paper leak. And one very striking sentiment that people had was that the moment Pilot was appointed as a CWC member, the issues and the muddas that he raised kind of vanished from his vocabulary eventually, is what people strongly felt, especially the youth. Especially the youth.
So Ishwar, I'm going to interrupt you for a second, because now we have Meenakshi. I'm told that we can actually hear what she's saying this time. So I'll go back to the question of what caused the BRS downfall, because going into this counting day, Meenakshi, we heard about anti-incumbency, we heard about corruption, we heard about the fact that that KCR's family was sort of running the state like a private enterprise. There was a lot of land grabbing, and it was just, people were just sort of fried. With what was going on. But I don't think any of us expected for the party to see the kind of fall that we're seeing in these numbers right now, which is quite drastic. So in your opinion, having covered Telangana during the campaign process, what is causing this?
So again, as I was trying to say, the fact that there's a lot of anger against BRS MLAs on the ground, the fact that they are very inaccessible, the fact that there are corruption allegations against them. So these are the things that this was there, and BRS knew that this was there, but at the same time they retained at least more than half a dozen MLAs. I mean, sorry, they only removed half a dozen MLAs, and there were still, most of the sitting MLAs were still contesting the elections. So yes, you could say that it's some kind of arrogance, and arrogance is something that Telangana people would not tolerate, because there's the whole statehood movement was based on that, right? Because there was a lot of arrogance from leaders from Andhra Pradesh that kind of that the people of Telangana were fed up with. And then this is happening again after 10 years of KCR being in power. And yes, so anger against the MLAs on the ground is one of the major reasons, I would say, because when I was in Bhaisa, which is in North Telangana, so there it falls under the Madhol Assembly constituency, and here Bhaisa is a town where there has been a lot of communal clashes over the past couple of years. And here there are people who've lost their homes in the violence, and despite that, they have not received any compensation, they have not received any support from the sitting MLA who is a BRS leader. So there are these tiny things that, so they are also considering, and they're Muslims and they're considering voting for the Congress or not voting at all. So these are things that did contribute to BRS's downfall. But again, it is surprising, it is shocking, because Congress was nowhere in the picture, shortly after the GHMC elections, when BJP just like shot through, and Congress was nowhere in the picture at that point of time. So in this very short period of time, what Congress has achieved is kind of surprising, and it's something that BRS probably did not expect, I would say.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And for the
I think we've lost Faye temporarily there, but yeah, she's
Yeah,
back.
sorry, I'm back.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say thanks for that, Ishwar. That was helpful. I wanted to say from Meenakshi, is there any clarity from the Congress who the chief minister is likely to be in Telangana?
So I think there is obviously Revant Reddy is one of the major faces, chief ministerial faces. But the problem is that just last year there was a rebellion rising against Revant Reddy, right? Because we have two major leaders of Congress like Dasoju Shravan, and also Munugode, the Congress candidate right now. He had moved to, who's Komat Reddy, Rajgopal Reddy, who had moved to the BJP to fight, and like, so there was a lot of rebellion against Revant Reddy at that point of time. Now Komat Reddy, Rajgopal Reddy is back to Congress, but there was a period where he was in the BJP and he was against fighting against the Congress, right? So there are several senior leaders who are upset with him. They were upset with him, at least. So he is not very well liked by the senior rung of leaders, is what I understand. And there are other leaders like Mallu Bhatti Vikramarka, who is, if he becomes the chief minister, then he would be the first Dalit chief minister of Telangana, which again is a slap on the face of KCR, because he had promised a Dalit chief minister when he came to power in 2014, and he did not meet that promise. So there are these options. There's Uttam Kumar Reddy, who was the TPCC president before Revant took over. So there are these leaders, and it's unsure if they will go with Revant at this point of time.
Sorry, I seem to have gotten cut again over there. Thanks
Can
for
carry on there.
Thanks for holding fort, you guys. The numbers, as we're going to take our audience, Congress trailing in Chhattisgarh now, says Harsh. We're just going to take our audience through those numbers one more time. So for Telangana, that that gap is is nice and wide for the Congress as of now. The Congress is leading in 67 seats, as Meenakshi was telling us. BRS in 39. In Rajasthan, BJP, his leads is crossed the halfway mark. BJP is leading in 106, whereas the Congress is at 78. So that gap again getting wider. Now, let's take a look at Chhattisgarh. But we were talking to Aditya. Aditya felt that okay, this is a fairly clear lead, but that gap is closing. It was 45 and 45 for BJP and Congress. It's now 44 and 46. So there's a 2-seat difference. Remember, 45 is the halfway mark. This is really close. BJP is gaining some of that ground. And so Chhattisgarh, guys, is not, locked either. This could go either way as we're looking at it right now. Madhya Pradesh is looking very clear for the BJP. We'll put those up on your screen as well. The BJP is leading in 135 or 134 in Madhya Pradesh out of a total of 230. Remember, the halfway mark is 115. So BJP looking comfortable if this sort of lead continues. Congress is at 90 in Madhya Pradesh. And as you can see, this was about 10:15. So Telangana and Madhya Pradesh seems fairly clear. Chhattisgarh, which everyone thought was in the bag for the Congress right now, could go either way. And that's what we're looking at this point. That Chhattisgarh might actually spring a surprise. Remember, a lot of the exit polls had given Chhattisgarh to the Congress. And so the early leads sort of went in that same direction. But it does seem like the BJP is gaining some ground there. And it might actually be a fairly close call there in Chhattisgarh. Also, a couple of the upsets, there's some word about the fact that Kamal Nath might be trailing as well. Ashok Gehlot leading, Vasundhara Raje leading in the seats that they are contesting. Rajendra Rathore is trailing, and this is according to the Times of India at this point. Diya Kumari is leading, as one would assume. Sachin Pilot now is leading, so he's no longer trailing. So that flipped over as well. In Madhya Pradesh, we have Narendra Singh Tomar, who is leading, along with Kamal Nath, who is also now leading, and Shivraj Singh Chauhan and Kailash Vijayvargiya, all of them leading in their respective states. The one sort of surprise is Chandrasekhar Rao, who continues to trail in Kamareddy. We have his son, who is leading in the constituency that he's contesting. Mohammad Azruddin, according to the Times of India, is trailing in Jubilee Hills. The BR is still struggling across the board over there, but we're now going to sort of focus a little bit on Chhattisgarh, where the battle is getting even more interesting at this point. We're just going to pull up some of those Chhattisgarh numbers for you to take a look at. It's currently at 45-45. So this could, like I said, go either way. 45 is the halfway mark, and as we speak, both parties are at that halfway mark. So it's not a given for Bhupesh Baghel in Chhattisgarh. It's not as simple as that. It's starting to get really interesting at this point. Ishwar?
Absolutely. And what is a little worrisome is, I don't think they have anybody to bank on. Like the previous time, there was a BSP, there were independent candidates. But if you see the 90 seats right now, 44 and 46, I mean, it's going to go either way. So a lot of people are also expecting that there might be some attempts from both sides to try to poach someone, but that remains to be seen, because it's not difficult with it's not as easy with the Congress and the BJP in a state like Chhattisgarh, where both parties are so strong and have both have had candidates who are so loyal to their own party. So this was one state, in fact, which was expected to be a little clearer as per the exit polls, but this is the only state which has gotten in such a neck-and-neck fight between the two parties.
One of our audience members is asking, why does the vote keep fluctuating in this manner? Can anyone tell us what's going on? So let me just tell you how this works, right? So in any state, you have constituencies, which is an entire area that gets cut up and said, all of these people, these are your candidates. Now, within those constituencies, you have various voting booths. In every voting booth, you have multiple boxes, because one box is full and then they start another one, then they start another one, right? Now, after all the voting is over, these boxes and their VVPATs are then moved into a strong room. Then when the counting begins, the election officer starts opening the seal of one box at a time for one constituency at a time. So there's what happens is there might be several boxes that have not been opened. And it could be that those boxes are from a particular portion of that constituency that leans a certain way. So there are some swing portions that could go either way. There are some sort of given portions, right? So it's very possible that the early first few boxes that were opened sort of suggested towards the Congress. But now, as they're opening more and more boxes, there are more and more votes in those boxes for the BJP. And so it's swinging now. I hope that sort of makes sense. I tried to break that down. And Harsh Malik says, what happens if there is a tie? Some MLA will make a lot of money, I think. Aditya joins us again. Aditya, this is a good question. Chhattisgarh, boom. What happens if there is a tie? Harsh Malik is asking us.
I think if there is a tie, then if it's 45-45, then it's up to the governor. And the governor can choose whichever side approaches them first. Or, we know how the governor might operate in in such an eventuality. But if any party falls short, then obviously the party, even if they don't have majority, the largest party, single largest party, will get called by the governor. But yeah, Chhattisgarh looks interesting.
So that's the answer from the textbook. Now let's talk about what actually might happen on the ground, which is one, there will be horse trading. People stand to make a lot of money over this. Two, there's going to be resort politics, which means that both of these parties, one of these is going to gather up all of their chaps and move them into a resort and sort of keep them safe. I'm assuming DK Shivkumar is being activated at some part of the country. He's on a plane right now flying into Chhattisgarh, where he didn't expect he'd be rushed into. And there will be a rush to make phone calls, write letters, and reach faster to the governor's house, as we've also seen happen once in Goa, where the BJP just reached before the Congress. And so they formed the government. Aditya? You're still on mute.
I think Congress, when that Goa fiasco happened, they really didn't realize how this entire game works. And the Congress in charges, they said, okay, we'll come after the weekend and then we'll figure things out. And by the time the deal was done, Mr. Gadkari had swooped in. But since then, Congress has become a bit smarter. And they did manage to save their government in Rajasthan, and Mr. Gehlot did whatever he did that was required there. In subsequent elections, the party didn't allow these things to happen. But of course, what happened after elections in MP and Karnataka is a different thing. But yes, I think both the Congress in charges of the state of Chhattisgarh, as well as Mr. Shiv Kumar and whoever other parties points people, they will go on overdrive. And I'm sure the BJP has already started making their plans in case it's a close finish.
Yeah, because, like Ishwar pointed out very interestingly, in Chhattisgarh, there are no others to sort of take from or to ally with or to bring on board. It's just the two. It's just BJP and Congress. They split down the middle. Right now, Congress is leading in 50, BJP in 40. So that's going to go back and forth. But is this going into the super over?
I still think if it's 50-40, Congress will be through. Because Chhattisgarh has always seen this 50-40, 47-37, 47-40 kind of results. And this is what it probably will be in the end. This is the state's default setting. The last election was an exception in which, there was 15 years of anti-incumbency against Raman Singh, and almost every section was upset with Raman Singh. This time, that's not the case. If it's 50-40, most probably, I think the Congress might be through. But I think the Congress has declined, especially in the Bastar belt. So a number of issues have harmed the Congress. There was due to the violence against conversion, on the conversion issue, there was violence against Christians. So Christians were upset with the Congress, and of course the ones who were protesting against alleged conversion, they were also upset. So Congress lost the support of both sides in some areas. So I think Congress has, in many pockets of Chhattisgarh, there has been a decline for the Congress, and this is something they would need to reflect, even if they somehow manage to come back to power.
Yeah, we understand also, Aditya, that the India Alliance has called a meeting as the numbers start to come in. So obviously, like you said, Congress sort of flexing a little bit, feeling a little confident at this point. That meeting being called in when the victory is still fresh, and that can be sort of talked about. So still close in Chhattisgarh. Congress is well ahead of both the BRS and the BJP in Telangana. In Madhya Pradesh, that gap is really wide at this point, and in Rajasthan as well. Let's just talk about Madhya Pradesh. BJP in Madhya Pradesh leading in 141 seats, well past that halfway mark. And we have Fatima joins us as well from your team. Fatima covered Madhya Pradesh. So I'm going to come back to Aditya in a bit about what this means for Shivraj Singh Chauhan and his future in the party going into the next election. But what do you think did the trick for the BJP, because they were going up against so much anti-incumbency?
They were, and for the longest time, all the opinion polls, just the general sentiment on ground was very anti-BJP and in favor of Congress. I do feel that in the last 2.5 weeks, the BJP picked up on this sentiment and realized that they have been going too big with, Modi Madhya Pradesh ke dil mein hai, to mumkin hai, and they're focusing too much on national issues. They need to bring back Shivraj Singh Chauhan in the center stage, and that's exactly what they did, highlighting the Ladli Behna scheme, or just generally, the whole Shivraj Mama aspect and everything that he's done in his time as chief minister 4 times now, actually. And I think they went back to hyper local issues in the state, and Shivraj Singh Chauhan reiterated that, look, I've been your brother, would you not want to see me back as the chief minister? He said that in so many words in his speeches. Will you not miss me when I'm gone? I feel like things like those did kind of bring back a lot of goodwill towards the BJP, despite the anti-incumbency that they continue to face.
Yeah, and we have some interesting questions. So, Aranya is saying, can there be a hung assembly in Chhattisgarh? I don't see how, because there are only two parties. So it has to go, it is this way or that way. It can't possibly, be a hung assembly, Aditya. But Chhattisgarh, now that gap is seeming slightly wider, 50 and 40.
Yes, I think, as I said a few minutes back also, Congress should make it if it's 50-40. There has been a decline in the other space. The BSP used to be strong at one point of time. The left had some pockets of influence. Ajit Jogi's party won a few seats last time. This time, I think none of that will be happening. So one of the parties will get a majority. Whether there'll be poaching after elections, of course, is anybody's guess.
I do want to talk to you, and we have Sharad Pradhan join us right now, senior journalist. Mr. Pradhan, good afternoon. Is it afternoon?
Good.
No, morning. We've just been at it for some
Yeah, morning. Yeah.
Good
I'm
morning.
sorry for getting a little bit late.
No problem. Very interesting movements here. I do want to discuss Mamaji, who Fatima was just telling us has managed to sort of buck the anti-incumbency, come back and look very strong. So for a BJP that doesn't necessarily hold on to its old faces, Shivraj Singh Chauhan here has sort of cemented his place, hasn't he?
Absolutely. You asking me?
Yes, Mr. Pradhan.
Well, absolutely. As a matter of fact, it was everybody was quite surprised that he was not even taken on board in the beginning, and it seemed that he is completely sidelined. It was later in the day that they realized that they would not be able to, BJP leadership realized that they would not be able to do without Shivraj Singh Chauhan. And that's the reason Modi eventually took him, and in the third list, his name for the elections came only in the third list. And now the big question, if eventually he, so it seems that he's the lead, the kind of lead that is being shown, whether he will be made chief minister or not, because he was never projected as a chief minister candidate, and they say his popularity is what is going against him, because Modi and Shah don't like people who, their leaders, who manage to stand up on their own, and they don't require a Modi or an Amit Shah to make the win, and this is exactly the case here. So that
And let
Sorry?
me ask the opinion of the Quint that question. Is it possible that Shivraj Singh Chauhan doesn't become chief minister for the 5th time in Madhya Pradesh? I mean, that would be a massive upset, right? He's obviously a very popular man.
The high command will really, the BJP high command will really have to take a very unpopular decision if they do that, because I mean, in all fairness, the verdict belongs to Shivraj Singh Chauhan. And the work he has done in the state, and his personal appeal towards voters, and it would be very unfair of the High Command to sort of deny him this. But then, of course, they are very capable of doing that. And as Mr. Pradhan said, they don't really like chief ministers who have their own popularity. They would ideally want a CM who's entirely dependent on Modi for their survival. But there's one little bit of leverage that Shivraj Chauhan has, and that is the Lok Sabha election.
Yes.
The BJP wouldn't want instability before the Lok Sabha election. So there
Right.
could possibility that they might just go with Mr. Chauhan for the next 1 year or so and then try to replace him later.
I agree with that. That is just a possibility because, as I said, his popularity is what eventually goes against him in terms of where Modi is concerned. And you can see that's what Modi did in Rajasthan. So Vasundhara Raje Scindia was also a late entry into the electoral scene. And yet, at the end of the day, she did not participate in, except for one meeting or one rally of Modi, she did not participate there. So, this is how BJP, it goes with the BJP, present BJP.
So it turns out that Vasundhara Raje is trailing from what my team is telling me. And we're going to just check that because that would be an interesting development as well. We have one more person of the Quint team join us. But I just want a larger point of view, Sharad Pradhan, from a national politics point of view now. We have 2 for 2 as it stands at this point. Chhattisgarh looking like it was going to be close. We're still going to watch Chhattisgarh. We can't call it. Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan looks like it's going the BJP's way. Telangana is going the Congress way. What impact will this have on the Lok Sabha elections of next year?
Well, it depends. Actually, this is when Access by India Today's exit polls came. Everybody was shocked, including those people who got the survey done. And as has been visible on some of the videos systematically released by India Today. And they were themselves shocked because they wouldn't believe it. But Pradeep Gupta of Access India eventually said in an interview with Rajdeep yesterday that, well, whatever it is there because this is what I got from the ground. And Pradeep Gupta of Access India has always been pretty accurate. So it was, except for West Bengal, I think, he never failed. So now it seems that what he had projected is turning out to be true. And it's going to be, of course, the kind of margins, because nobody was imagining that Shivraj Singh Chauhan would take BJP to that extent, because they, according to them, it was 161, if I'm not mistaken, the seats that have been given to BJP in Madhya Pradesh in that survey. But and one or two others, but mostly it was supposed to be expected to be a neck and neck fight both in Madhya Pradesh and in Rajasthan. But as things are turning out, though it's only hardly or not even halfway. Madhya Pradesh is halfway, the halfway of the counting. Now let's see what happens if would things change drastically. Rajasthan, of course, as you said, Rajasthan is still expected to be a neck and neck fight, and there's no reason why Ashok Gehlot would have failed with the kind of things that he has done, especially the welfare schemes. These days, this is what works. It is either social divide, religious divide, but this is where it has to be. This election will tell whether Madhya Pradesh has gone with the communal divide that Modi and took to the hilt. In every rally he was talking about that Kanhaiya Lal, that man who was beheaded by some Islamic terrorists, and it was given them, he built that whole divide on that. So whether it is the divide with which people are going, or it is the development and welfareism that Ashok Gehlot propagated and did very systematic.
Yeah, let me bring in Vishnukant Tiwari, who's a correspondent with Quint who covered Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh. Vishnu, thanks for joining us. Chhattisgarh here seeming interesting. Could you tell us what you picked up on the ground when you were reporting for the Quint on the ground? What sort of trends did you see that are now materializing in this election? Because Chhattisgarh surprisingly also looking fairly close.
Yeah, thanks for having me. While I was on the ground, it was, the fight looked very close because although for the initial 4.5 years, the BJP remained very silent, they were not very proactive. But ever since this communal incident happened in April, the BJP picked up, and then it seemed more like that the fight got much tougher as the day passed. In Chhattisgarh, also in the areas like Tribal North and Tribal South. Still we are in the early phases of counting, but we'll see drastic changes in the seat tallies, especially in Tribal North and Tribal South.
Aditya, I just want to come back to you here. The Congress should not be celebrating so soon, right? Because even now, Chhattisgarh is at 48 and 42, so it could swing, like Vishnu is telling us, it could still swing away from the Congress.
Yeah, 48-42 is close. I remember there was one election. It was not. It was probably 13, where the Congress seemed a bit ahead at one point of time, and it was a 46-40 kind of lead for the Congress, and eventually it was the BJP which sort of pulled through. So yeah, with this kind of a small margin, the Congress obviously shouldn't start celebrating too soon. And Vishnukant, he covered the entire tribal belt quite extensively, and he would also know that some booths are extremely remote, and the inputs, the numbers from them might just come later, and there are smaller booths and which are spread out with lesser numbers, so it takes a little more time sometimes to complete the counting in some seats. So Chhattisgarh is seeming a little tricky right now.
And to add to that, Faye, if you
Yes.
permit me,
Yes,
the biggest difficulty would arise if this continues until the end in Chhattisgarh, because BJP is too smart, and especially the Amit Shah Modi combined, they know how to convert a marginal defeat into victory. With all kinds of, they would do
Mr.
anything to do that.
Pradhan,
So
they've also
that's a very
converted resounding defeats into victories. So,
yeah.
pretty much still.
So Congress has to be very cautious. They would indulge in, and with the kind of money they have at their disposal, with the party being in power, obviously you can do. And for Modi, it's a very crucial election, because ultimately he's going to tell on the Lok Sabha. It will have unlike the past, this time it will have an impact on the Lok Sabha as well.
So, Mr. Pradhan, is it fair to say that the BJP's hold over these middle India states, which is Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Uttar Pradesh, remains very, very strong? And like Aditya was pointing out in the beginning when we started, there's a large number of Lok Sabha seats at play here.
Well, you're right, and it is if you divide it I think it's the Hindi-speaking states where they continue to have influence, which also reflects how the Hindi-speaking belt gets easily influenced by communal factors, and BJP is too smart at playing up the communal factor and taking advantage of that. Whether it is in terms of the Hindu-Muslim divide, which they are always, all of their leaders are emphasizing only on that. And now with the Lok Sabha, what will add to their campaign is the Mandir inauguration, the Ayodhya Mandir inauguration, which has been very systematically timed for the elections, because they could have completed it months ago.
Are we, Mr. Pradhan, and I'll bring Aditya in here for a counter
Yeah.
opinion. Is it an oversimplification to say that the Hindi-speaking belt of India is just influenced by communalism, and that is why the BJP wins? Is that an
I think broadly, I would believe that, because this is how it is showing up.
Aditya?
I think, for instance, in the last Lok Sabha election, a very big issue was the Pulwama attack and the Balakot strike. And a great deal of this consolidation that the BJP saw in central and northern India was because of that. Whether those circumstances still exist, whether the Ram Mandir will be able to have that kind of impact the way that nationalistic fervor had last time, we don't know. But at least at the state level, one does feel that communal factors don't become as salient as they become at the national level. For instance, in Rajasthan or Madhya Pradesh, or how we saw in Karnataka, the BJP led a very shrill campaign, but it didn't quite materialize for the party. But let's see what happens in Rajasthan. Again, there were a few seats like Tijara. We saw a lot of hate statements being made. Then Bidhuri was sent to handle the BJP campaign in Tonk. In Hawa Mahal in Jaipur, again, the BJP had a person who said that temples in Jaipur are under threat, and temples have to be saved from Gehlot. So we need to see how these seats have voted in the end and whether this shrill campaign worked. Fatima covered the Khargone seat in Madhya Pradesh where a similar thing happened. Kavardha in Chhattisgarh, Vishnukant had gone. So, I mean, we need to look at these seats also where this polarization campaign was carried out.
Fatima, do you agree with Mr. Pradhan that it was the polarization that worked for the BJP, or was there more to it?
I mean, in Madhya Pradesh, I do feel that welfare schemes and just generally the kind of goodwill that Shivraj Singh Chauhan carries, all of those things did have a role. But Khargone specifically, I do want to talk about. Like, I remember when I went there, Vishnukant had gone there just after the riots. I went there last month ahead of the elections. And while I continued to see piles of rubble and people whose homes had been demolished after the riots, generally people who had suffered in the riots in terms of whether it was the injuries or their houses being burnt down. That was one side of the story. The other side, which were the Hindu dominated areas, when I went there, if you remember, at that time, soon after the riots, a wall had been constructed, built between the Hindu side and the Muslim side, which is basically
Oh my.
that has more Hindus and side that has more Muslims, and that wall continued to be there even a year and a half later. I remember speaking to the Hindu families in that area, and all of them categorically said that if BJP wasn't in power, we would have died. They even said that we need this wall to be here to survive. I asked them, do you have any Muslim friends? Do you speak to Muslims? I mean, they live in close proximity to you. And they said, no, why do we need to speak to them? This is the Hindu area, that's the Muslim area. The lines were that clear. In fact, even there was, this is important because right after the riots, there was this whole discussion on the rehabilitation and basically the relief mechanisms that were meted out. And while there is what is done by the book, there is also additional support that is meted out by the political parties. Now, there was this one guy, 16-year-old Shivam Shukla. He had been hit with a stone on his head by the rioters, and he survived that injury. But soon after that, his sister was supposed to get married, and Shivraj Singh Chauhan, he sent 2 lakh rupees separately for her, and his people went there and got a photo op done, and that was posted on the BJP's Twitter, whereas nothing of this sort was done on Muslim victims. So things like these did resonate with a large chunk of the Hindus, and I'm saying that this is a very local issue, but in Khargone specifically and the areas around that, I definitely do think that the riots and the aftermath of that benefited BJP.
Vishnu, do you agree?
Yes, I agree. I mean, in certain pockets of Madhya Pradesh, this communal polarization does help BJP. But I mean, if this the current trend follows, and if the BJP makes it to the final, I mean, after the counting, I would largely attribute it to this the recent scheme and Shivraj's personal touch with the electorate, along with the Ladli Behna Yojana, which we all have been talking about. That it would be the undercurrent which I mean most of us were not able to exactly gauge it to and most of us were not able to exactly determine how many seats this I mean this scheme will get the BJP to I mean in their favor.
So BJP leading in Madhya Pradesh, Shivraj Singh Chauhan is also leading. BJP continues to stay ahead of the Congress. Rajay now leading in her constituency as well. Vasundhara Rajay, Congress comfortably in the driving seat now in Telangana. Celebrations have begun at the Congress office in Hyderabad, we understand. Just to take you through those numbers one more time. In Madhya Pradesh, BJP now leading in 153 seats. And the Congress is at 74. So that gap now is massive and is unlikely to close at this point. In Rajasthan, BJP is leading in 105 and the Congress is at 71. The others are at 23. So there's a fair gap there as well. Chhattisgarh, Congress at 43, BJP at 45.
Oh, Chhattisgarh is.
I'm afraid to say anything about Chhattisgarh because I feel like it's going to swing now in the opposite direction. BJP ahead of the Congress in Chhattisgarh, and that would come as a surprise even to the pollsters who had
Even to the pollsters.
who had given Chhattisgarh to the Congress. Sharad Pradhan, is there a possibility the Congress may lose Chhattisgarh? And Mallikarjun Kharge is part of meeting of the India Alliance, he'll have to postpone that meeting.
Well, I can understand that because this gap, the way it is now, the turning, although it is still halfway, but and as Vishnu pointed out, that in the tribal areas it could make some difference. So it's very difficult to say. I would keep my fingers crossed, and because this is what the pollsters have given a clear-cut victory to the Congress. Nobody could have imagined that they would go neck and neck in Chhattisgarh. Nobody had, none of the pollsters had mentioned that.
Yeah.
And so were the ground reports. Bhupesh Baghel was supposed to be in a very comfortable position. And this is despite BJP not projecting anybody as a chief ministerial candidate. It will be a big win for Modi, because Modi has been, like everyone believed, that he was overconfident to win all the elections and on his face, because in all these states, no one had been projected as chief minister. So this is a bit too surprising. But let's see.
Let's see, indeed. In the meantime, Shivraj Singh Chauhan's wife had campaigned to woo the women voters. So could that have gone in their favor? And I do want to focus on women voters for a second. I'll take that back to Fatima. Within Madhya Pradesh, the role that women voters would have played, and do you believe that Shivraj Singh Chauhan could have won a fair amount of goodwill from there?
I do think so. I feel like women I spoke to categorically, I mean, they kept referring to him as, बच्चों के मामा हैं ये तो, शिवराज मामा है. In fact, it takes a different spin in each district you go to. Like in Khargon, he became bulldozer mama, which tells you something about the state of Khargon and Madhya Pradesh as well, right? But the fact that even in a situation of a riot, and while describing the aftermath of a riot, they refer to him as a brotherly figure who came to protect them and support them by way of the bulldozer action. I mean, it really does signify the larger, not just popularity, but I think the attachment that people have with him, right? Because a lot of leaders are political leaders are popular over time, but I think what enables Shivraj to be a step above all of them is the fact that he's enjoyed this longevity. It's been a 4-time CM, probably a 5th-time CM now if the BJP continues with him. It's because of this level of familiarity that he's had with, and he's known. I mean, even the Ladli Behna Yojana that we're talking about it, right? It's basically a rehash of the Lakshmi Yojana that he came up with several years ago. And the BJP realized that it's working so well in Madhya Pradesh that they took it nationally, right? So that tells you that he's also able to gauge things ahead of a lot of veteran leaders, even in the central BJP. And the parties realize this. And I mean, I feel like a lot of this just comes down to the sentiment and the optics that you carry with you. I do want to bring out that Madhya Pradesh, I mean, we did a story on that, has the highest number of missing girls and women in the country, right? So that is what the facts tell us. Nearly 2 lakh women and girls went missing between 2019 and 2021. But those are the facts on paper, and those are things that continue to happen. Do people know about it? Do people care about it? Do people actually attribute blame to the Shivraj Singh Chauhan government over such figures? I don't think so. And I feel like that is something that will really help him buck the anti-incumbency.
Yeah, so I'm just going to ask Aditya to just walk with us through the numbers, because right now Chhattisgarh is anyone's game. It's 44, 45, 43. So it's difficult to call at this point. But the gap for Madhya Pradesh has gotten nice and wide. BJP at 153. The Congress is at 73. Rajasthan, the BJP leading at 104. The Congress 2. And in Telangana, the Congress is at 70 seats, well past that halfway mark. What part of this do you think is going to, I mean, if you could give us an idea about the number of rounds that would have been counted at this point, we're at 11 a.m., and how much you think Chhattisgarh will change from here? Are we likely to wind up in sort of like a 50-50 split?
I think it's about 10-15 seats which are leading to this constant change from one side to the other. So those seats, I think, will continue to change for at least a couple of hours more. Maybe they'll stabilize. Maybe some of them might even continue fluctuating data. But definitely, these 10 seats, 15 seats are the ones which are leading to this instability in Chhattisgarh. Other states, I think all the Rajasthan, Telangana, MP all seem pretty clear. And I think the BJP will end this day feeling quite happy with themselves because they've won Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, and they've gained significant ground in Chhattisgarh. And also a regional party has been defeated in Telangana, so another state can potentially become, a more. It opens up a little more space for the BJP in Telangana for future. So really happy with today's result.
Is this a victory or a defeat for Mallikarjun Kharge and the Congress and Rahul Gandhi, Sharad Pradhan?
Well, if it eventually turns out this way, yes, it will be seen as a, and in Madhya Pradesh's case, it will be seen more as a victory of Shivraj Singh Chauhan. But you will find that the Shivraj Singh Chauhan will not be shown in the anywhere by the BJP. They'll project it as a victory of the great one man. So for all you, but yes, as far as the Congress is concerned, in Chhattisgarh particularly, it'll be a big defeat for Rahul Gandhi and for Mallikarjun Kharge. It's really, in case it goes that way, I still believe that probably it will still, as Vishnu had also pointed out, in the tribal areas, Congress is likely to make gains.
Yeah.
And it's so, but in Telangana, of course, it'll be victory, and it'll be also be, Sonia Gandhi also addressed 2 rallies there, and she was confident about telling and reiterated that she went to the extent of going for Telangana, to the state to be formed, even though she said that we know that we would lose, yet we are going ahead with the creation of the state of Telangana. You remember that? So all that, I think, did pay. The identity, on which KCR was trying to play up, and he didn't succeed. So it seems.
All right. So this is where we are right now. It's a big election results day. 3 states seem to be fairly clear in the direction that they're going, which is Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan going to the BJP, it would seem, from the beginning of these leads. Telangana going to the Congress. Chhattisgarh is still anyone's game, and it's likely to go on for the next few hours as we see swing back and forth. But we're going to leave you here on this live, and I want to thank the team at Quint for giving us your time on what is obviously a very, very busy day. Mr. Pradhan, always a pleasure to talk to you. Continue.
Always a pleasure to be on your show. Always a pleasure to be on your show.
We're going to continue to analyze the information as it comes in at this point. But we will stop the live here. We're going to put out more analysis videos through the day and on the Beatroot News app. Of course, you can look at Quint for the analysis. Aditya and his team are going to put out during the day. And thank you so much for watching this very exciting election results with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.